it happened to me to say, okay guys, here the situation is that or we play the game and try to do our best, improve together and so on. Otherwise, we win together and we lose together. But my winning or my losing depend on me for sure, for a certain kind of things, but on you, because if I do my best and you do your worst, we lose together anyway. So,
what if you're stuck with a company that doesn't want to change? They do Agile, but they are not really Agile. And while your team is trying their best, it's a lose-lose situation. You can't always choose the team or your employer if you're not a freelancer. How do you deal with situations like that? Today, I'm talking with Alessandro about these kinds of situations. We touch on some topics around stress in a Scrum Master role, as well as organizational challenges that make your progress seem impossible. We also touched on how to identify whether your potential employer is a good fit and they truly are Agile, or if they're just pretending. Alessandro became a Scrum Master in 2018 after being a developer. He is 53 years old and lives near Milan in Italy with his family. He has lots of fascinating hobbies, apart from Scrum like motorbikes, old sport cars, and even improv theater. Let's hear how his Agile journey is going. Hey everyone, it's Daria here. Welcome to the Agile Audit, a podcast where we sit down with your fellow colleagues to talk about the real-life Agile and Scrum, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Hello, Alessandro. I'm very happy to be able to speak with you today. Thank you for your time.
thank you.
And I think we have touched on some very interesting subjects, and I think that you will be able to bring in some interesting topics in this conversation today. But I guess the first question I had for you is based on when we talked and kind of how you talked about your Agile journey. One of the things that you said is when you learned about Agile and Scrum, you kind of felt, well, I'm actually the Agile guy. It all seemed so aligned with what I already was thinking.
Yeah.
And I wanted to learn more about what made you think that this is the thing for you, and why you believe that this is the way to go and the way to work.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here with you and your audience and followers. About my Agile journey and why I feel that it's the right thing for me, I first encountered these concepts, this approach, mindset. It was 2016, so around 7 years ago. Basically, the team where I was at the time was told, okay, now you do this Agile way. Okay, no one knew anything about that. So we started to learn about it, and I liked the idea of not having everything set up front, because I had a strong feeling with my previous experience that that didn't work. So I loved this thing, and I started to study by myself to go a bit deeper on this whole set of new, at least to me, ideas. And I liked the idea that the thing is based on empiricism. So we learn something, we adapt, we inspect, we adapt, and so on. After that, reflecting about that kind of approach, I said, okay, but that should be how human being works, because when we are very, very, very young, we learn to walk, to speak, everything in that way. So it's the natural way of doing things for us. But I don't know why somewhere in the process it happens that we like Gantt, Excel, and plans, milestones, and it doesn't work, at least in a complex context, in complex situation. Obviously, if we are going to produce 1 million of nails a day, we didn't need Agile or Scrum and this mindset. But for what we do in our business, I think that's the best thing that we can try to use for going better with our projects, our life, working life, and so on. So more or less, that's it.
Yeah, that makes sense, definitely. I guess once you see what it is supposed to do, right? The value or the goal in Agile and Scrum, it makes sense. It's like common sense, right? So why are we doing it differently?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think for you, it was especially because I guess the big part of your career was as a developer, right?
Yeah.
And then you switched into more of that Scrum Master people role. So what was that switch? I know that as a developer, you're kind of more working, less with people, more with machines.
No, it's simply that I started as a developer in 1997, so probably dinosaurs were on Earth at the time. Years are passing, things become very complicated. Technologies were bigger and bigger and more huge, and I worked with other colleagues that were 27 years old, 28, and they were very easy on those things because they learned that things maybe at the university, and for me it was something like running the 100 meters every day, but with the request of a performance that I cannot provide anymore, and I felt a lot of stress. So I started to look around, what I can do other than following this thing, and just in that period the project that I named before started, and I started as a developer in this agile context, and in a couple of years I was able to be on the other side and have my first team, being a Scrum Master for the first time. Now in 5 years many things have changed, and many has been learned, and many have to be learned again in the future. But at least I don't have the stress to follow technologies that changing 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, and they are super quick. I have other stress, as you know, as a Scrum Master, we have other kind of stuff to manage, but it's a bit more comfortable for me.
Okay, well, yeah, that makes sense. I guess, you started pretty early, and then the more time was passing, I think the technology was developing quicker and quicker.
Yeah.
So definitely adding a lot of that stress in here.
There are colleagues that have my same age, and they feel comfortable in spending their time learning about technologies and everything because they love that. People as project and complex situation change, and I changed because I loved technology. I loved to be a developer. I have fun doing that. But I changed and things have become different, so I tried something different. Maybe in the next 10, 15 years things will be different again, and after that I hope to retire because I will be 79 in 15 years, so I hope that I can retire.
Probably time to retire, yeah.
Yeah, I hope a bit earlier too if it's possible. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, you talked a bit about the stress. You touched a bit on that stress that we feel as Scrum Masters, there are different types of stress. So tell me a bit more about what are some of those things that you think are especially stressful for Scrum Masters.
To me, it's the thing that in theory we have to move people to do something without telling them how to do it and doing it. So trying to extract from them knowledge, the inspection, to reason and to see, this thing is not going how we want, what can we do? And this usually translates in heavy silences with the team, and now that we are since 2020 more often remotely than co-located in an office, it's more difficult. So you maybe ask a question like, what we can we see from this thing? What we can put some sticky notes on the board about, I don't know, something. and nothing happens. Silence. Nothing appears on the board. And that to me it's terrible. I have to force myself to stay silent maybe 20, 30, 40 seconds. That is a long time, a very long time. And if nothing happens, then you have to try to suggest, try to move them. Because in my opinion, this game, as every game, have to be played by everyone. If the team is forced to play it and don't feel the necessity, don't want to participate because maybe they say, okay, but why I have to do? You can explain whatever, but if they don't play the game, there is no way that you, as a Scrum Master, can bring something useful and valuable to the team. So, okay, we try our best, but it's very uncomfortable. That's, at least to me, the biggest stress that I have and I had with my teams.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not even a fault of the team, but of the context. I lived for, it was 2 years with a team in a context where probably you know this kind of thing. Everything is waterfall in the company. And you are a team that you do agile, yes, but then, okay, we had a plan, start the sprint. Sorry, we have to change. No, this, okay, once, twice, 3 times. And at a certain point, the team asked to me, okay, but why we do have a retrospective or a sprint planning or whatever? In 5 minutes, they change their ideas, so why we have to play this game? Okay, as a Scrum Master, I said, okay, you are right, but we should try to change, but it was a lose-lose situation. There is a limit about the changes that we can bring in a company if a huge company doesn't want to change, at least in that initiative. They shouldn't obviously change a full company, but at least for that initiative. But if even that they don't want to change, okay, there is no chance to win.
Yeah.
So that's the stress of me as a Scrum Master.
What do you think in those situations? And I definitely lived through similar stuff, you know, in my career, and same as like the big company. And one time where Scrum Masters were kind of pushed into a career that was more of a delivery or project manager route for us, and some Scrum Masters looked at it and said, okay, I can do that doesn't matter, right? But then some people, for me it was a change towards like where we're going backwards, and for me it was not something that I wanted to stay with, right? And that was one of the reasons that I moved from one of the companies, because of I felt that we're going backwards. The changes like are not actually being implemented in such a way that I could see potential overall, and that's why I felt that I need to, you know, not waste my time, really.
Yeah, exactly. It's difficult because in my case I have a permanent job now with a company, and before with another company, so it's not easy to say, okay, I'm a freelancer, for example, so I can choose of my life and say, okay, I don't like this, what's happening here in this context, in this situation, so I can choose to change and go somewhere else. The thing that I was able to do, the best thing that was, okay, things here aren't working, so can you find me another project? But that's more difficult than to have people to speak when they don't want to speak, because agility and Scrum here in Italy at least, and I feel that everywhere, are not always perceived like something that can bring a real change, but something that it's like fashion. Okay, we have the dot on the website, we do Agile, but probably you do Agile, you are not Agile, And so it's very difficult to switch from a situation to another and changing job continuously. It's not healthy if it's too frequent. In my case, I had to live with the situation and try to make the best of it but more than for me, for the team itself, because it was evident that they are frustrated, they are not happy, there were tensions, not an healthy situation. So my desire was to try to make this situation a bit better for them and consequently for me too. Then another thing is that this kind of company sometimes change initiatives, so they close them abruptly, and so they take you and put you somewhere else, and so this is an opportunity to try something different, at least to try. In my case, I changed company and job because I had the chance, and so I tried different experiences, different teams.
And I think it's a bit different in Europe, like the kind of how we look at the job market, but also like the career progression here in North America. I feel like if you are switching jobs every 2 years, that is absolutely normal, almost kind of seen as a positive thing sometimes, because it shows that you have experience in so many different areas. When I worked in France, it was not the case. Like you're kind of staying in one place.
Yes, things have been changed a bit in the last 20 years. So there are two kind of person. There are those like me that in my previous company I worked there for 19 years, and that was probably a record during these times, because even in Europe things are changed, so you see a lot of turnover in the companies, and people try to catch opportunities if they want. But that's more true, in my opinion, for younger people and for levels that are above of my level of career, because they switch more easily. In the middle and at my age, it's not so easy to switch companies or jobs. Obviously, there are people that are independent, so they are their own company, and they try to find customers and they choose how to work. But the fact is that they are hired by themselves, so they have their company, so they don't need to switch it. They create it like they want and choose the customers and the clients how they prefer. Obviously, that's the opportunity that they have, with other advantages and disadvantages, obviously, because there are risks in owning a company.
So kind of looking into, as you say, some people, specifically freelancers or people who are working for themselves, they can choose companies, right? And they have a chance to look into, okay, do I want to work with this company, or does it feel like it is the right fit? What do you think are some of the things that people should look out for when, let's say, choosing a company, whether they are freelancer or, when you're going through the interviews, you have a chance to sometimes, kind of probe questions. What do you think people should look out for?
Okay, to me it's important to, for example, read how the company write down what are you doing. Maybe you see in LinkedIn what will be your responsibilities, what we are looking for. So if I see something like as a Scrum Master you manage people, or you report to XY, I don't know, whoever, with a plan that and results and team performance. This has to be examined well. So if should I obtain, for example, an interview with them, probably I would focus on that kind of things, because the writing maybe has been done by someone that doesn't know about Agile or Scrum and so on. So it could be a bad copy and paste of something that they don't know. But for sure it's something that should be explored well during an interview or in case of a freelance while try to have the first contact to understand if it's possible to work together. But there are signals of company being more oriented to be agile or to do agile. I felt that this is a very common thing because last year in October I participated in an event that is named the Italian Agile Day, and there were some speakers that spoke about this kind of trouble. So even in outside Italy, so it's common around the world probably. And they just say that yes, because companies work like that. Someone decided they want to do an initiative. Okay, good. They work a year to plan arrangements and so on. Then they take 5 people and they say, okay, now you have Jira and you do Agile. Doesn't work very well. So probably, for coming back to your question, that's it. I will try to understand if the approach, the mindset is more oriented in a direction or just traditional project management with a different name, just that.
So like a lot of the signs, right, are kind of sitting in this project management domain where you see the words like management, performance, a lot of focus on velocity, I think. Metrics like this.
Yeah, reporting about progress, something like that. Just yesterday or the day before yesterday, I see something like that on LinkedIn, and I said, okay, probably they try to do agile, but not to be. On the other side, it could be an opportunity because maybe professional like us can be the right person to try to make them change, because everyone have learned, I learned, you learned, everyone learns about everything. So maybe it can be an opportunity to say, okay, you are asking for this and that, but maybe it should be a different thing, so that and those. Okay, would you like to try the right way? We learn together and can be an opportunity for both. Then the game have to be played, and the question is the ones before, do you want to play the game? So could be an opportunity, a risk too.
A risk, definitely. It's kind of like a tough decision to make, because you can come into a company that is perfectly agile. When I say you can, it's like the ideal situation. I think that first you need to find that kind of company. But you can come into a company that doesn't have as many challenges or problems, and it will be like a comfortable environment where you probably can learn a lot of how to do things. But then it may also kind of become a bit boring, I guess.
Okay, let's say that once in a life it would be nice to be in a comfortable, boring situation for a couple of years. So, relaxing a bit. Oh, wow, things works. And what's a theory we can... It would be nice to have an opportunity to see things working as they are described in the book, in the Scrum Guide, and so on. Obviously, maybe not exactly as, but as best as possible. Reality is that usually it's very, 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 very different thing, and trying to move from that far away toward the ideal thing is between a very long journey to impossible. On the other side, speaking with another colleague, Fabio Panzavolte, another trainer with Scrum.org, he said to me, okay, but if you are able to just bring one change that is in the right direction, okay, you are doing your job. So if you can improve a way of working of the team, or you can change the mindset of a manager, you can bring an improvement, okay, that's already a success. So it will be a starting point. Maybe not enough, but for sure a positive thing.
Yeah, definitely. I guess it's about seeing those changes, right? Sometimes it's hard to actually see them, especially we're a bit working in like from the back of the room in a way, right? We're not really reaping the benefits of our work is more for the team, right? As you were saying at the beginning, I wanted to help the team. Eventually it would have helped me, but the first goal is to how can I help this team to, feel better, be more organized, less frustrated, more motivated, right? So it's first about others.
Yeah, exactly. It's another thing because our success is a consequence of the success of the team. It happened to me to say, okay guys, here the situation is that or we play the game and try to do our best, improve together and so on. Otherwise, we win together and we lose together. But my winning or my losing depend on me for sure, for a certain kind of things, but on you, because if I do my best and you do your worst, we lose together anyway. So let's say that my career or my working place depends a lot on how much you want to play the game and trying to do the best as possible. Obviously, perfection doesn't exist. We learn, we improve constantly, and that will be enough. But if that is not happening, everyone is damaged. Like you said, we work in the background. So, as I said before, we try to make people doing something without telling them how and when and everything. So we depend completely on them. That's another point where our job is strange. We depend completely on other people willing to understand and play this kind of game. So not easy, not always easy.
Hard position to be in, right?
Yeah. Sometimes it is. We choose this thing, and so okay, it comes with the benefits and not so positive things. Like in every kind of job, as the best and the worst. So it's like two faces of the same medal. You have the both sides everywhere.
I think some people, when they look at this role, they say, well, I am accountable for the results, but then, as you say, I cannot really tell people what to do. And so sometimes it actually turns into that the Scrum Master feels like they need to control things and they need to be more of a manager, and they kind of turn to that behaviors that actually then in the long term actually not very helpful, right? So they are not helping the team, they're not helping themselves in the long run, but it feels like we're more in control. And then we can say that, well, if I'm a Scrum Master, I am accountable for the results. I cannot really tell anyone what to do. It's not fair. How can this be fair? Why am I accountable for the results in a way? So what do you think we can do to, I guess, combat this feeling or find a way to manage?
Yes, I felt and sometimes I feel exactly this. It has happened to me. Okay, guys, there is this situation. Okay, so what? And it's a personal thing to me in my job. I felt responsible. So sometimes it's do that, please. You think about okay, let's try to devise a solution. Let's try to have an idea, whatever idea. Obviously, if there is not an urgency, if there is an incident in production, okay, stop everything, we address that and no doubt about it. But if there is no risks and there is time, it's an inner battle to try to avoid, as you said, to say, let's try to do this. For me, sometimes it has been like, okay, I sit with you, you have a problem, you cannot solve it, okay. Let's sit together, explain it to me. I'm not a a developer anymore, but I still can read a code and understand it. So, okay, let's sit together, try to explain what you want to achieve, what's wrong, because maybe just telling it out loud, explain it to someone else that as me is not too much into that code, into coding and developing, can help you that you have an issue, the block and whatever, to overtake it. And sometimes it worked. If I see that two people doesn't match very well together, okay, we can try to, okay, why do you feel this way about him or her or whatever? And then while maybe to us there is an obvious way to solve that, but okay, not to speak, not tell them, let's try to make them to define their own solution. And again, it's up to them to be willing to play with you this game. Otherwise, we just tried and we see what happened. But yes, I find myself many times in that situation that it would be so easy to tell them, no, do that and do this, and maybe it'll work. But I try to avoid absolutely, even because in particular in the last projects that I had with different teams, technologies and the topic itself, it's so hugely complicated. I don't know, computer vision, deep learning, things that are almost science fiction. For sure I cannot propose any technical solution, so I can propose maybe a behavior and a mindset. I can try to help them to reason on a particular situation, but on the technical side, okay, it's not a problem because I don't have the knowledge for doing that. So yes, it's another part of the job that sometimes it can be frustrating. Okay, do that, because we depend on that. The positive things is that when they devise a solution and they can go over the block, the impediment that they have and so on, it's rewarding. It's a nice thing, a nice feeling. It would be nice to have it more often, but we can do with what we have.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's interesting that what you were saying just now, so I wanted to kind of look into that a bit more. As you say, well, what they're talking about is so like science fiction, very technical. I don't really know what they're working on. Now, you're a developer, so you used to be a developer, so you still have the technical knowledge, right?
Yeah.
And even with that knowledge, you kind of feel, well, now the technology has went so far, I no longer kind of know what's going on the technical side, so I cannot really offer any solutions. And I think there are a lot of people who are becoming Scrum Masters and they don't even have any kind of technical knowledge or any kind of developer experience, so they feel very overwhelmed. And they start hearing all of these terms and words and they don't really know what it means. And how do you kind of cope with that no longer understanding what your team actually is talking about, you know?
What I try to do is to at least understand the basics. For example, in my last project, let's say, we worked on computer vision, deep learning. We were trying to make a machine to recognize a particular situation from videos, and I didn't know anything about that. So I said, okay, I'm here to try my game with you. On the other side, I would like to learn the basics, a bit of terminology, a bit of differences about one thing and another. I tried to have the basic knowledge about the concepts, because, for example, the mathematical part that is behind that kind of project is beyond me. I would need 5 years to studying just for trying to understand that thing. Maybe 20 years ago I would be a bit more quick on that, but now 5 years is the minimum, and that would be obsolete in 5 years. So I tried to understand the basics so that when they speak to each other or they ask for something, I can at least understand. And when I didn't understand, I don't feel any shame in saying this I didn't understand, so can you explain to me? Okay, sometimes I do a wrong thing. Okay, sorry, I did it wrong. How can change this thing? And I simply say, okay, I'm wrong. This is wrong. So I'll try to do differently for helping you. So I think that at least for me, it's an help for being more comfortable with the team when they speak to each other, when the daily maybe I was there, so I can try to understand what they are saying and to help them maybe during a retrospective and so on. And more of that, understanding what we are creating that would be useful, because we have to explain to other people, to the stakeholders, some manager. And I think that can help. So it's obvious that we cannot have the knowledge about every project that we are to do with different teams, but at least the basics have to be acquired, learned, because it would be useful for us as a Scrum Master and for the team.
How do you think would be like the best way to acquire those basics? Do you do like an online course or something like that, or do you just talk with the team?
I spoke with them. I asked them if I had the chance. Okay, I don't know about tracking an object or a person in a video. Okay, can you explain me a bit? Okay, maybe sometimes they say, try to read this article. Okay, I try to read, and then I ask question, and then little by little you start to understand a little bit more and enough for work with the team on that project. It's valid on the other way around, because maybe they don't know about Agile and Scrum, and it's our duty to help them, explain to them, suggesting them some readings and so on. So it's a two-way road.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I can see that. And I think that's a really good advice generally, to just ask questions. Yeah. And I think sometimes people are afraid just to ask questions. Like, oh, I didn't understand what the team is talking about. What do I do? Well, ask. Ask. Tell them, I have no idea what you just said. Can you explain it to me, like for the dummies?
The problem is that in our culture it's extremely difficult to admit, okay, I don't know this thing, or I'm not able to this task or this other thing. Instead, in my opinion, it shouldn't be in that way, because no one owns the full knowledge of the universe, and so, okay, this thing, I don't know this thing, I have to learn it if it's necessary. Can you explain? Probably it's a strange thing to be able to admit, and sometimes it's difficult, because it's not easy sometimes to say, okay, I don't know, or to admit that maybe you made something wrong. Okay, it happens. I'm not perfect. So let's put it together. What can I do?
What can I do? Do you think it may impact like whether the team respects you or not? I think there are a lot of times developers say, oh, whatever you're doing is so easy, anyone can do it. What I'm doing is so unique that no one can do it. And so it creates that kind of weird imbalance between the developers and Scrum Masters, or just Agile experts, people who are working with people and focusing on like team building, rather than something tangible-ish?
In my experience, no one ever told me something, or made me understood something like, okay, but what you do, it's nothing. You are going to play with the board, creating the next retrospective and so on. That doesn't happen. To be honest, that thing it happened between me and myself sometimes.
Okay.
Because sometimes it happens to me that, okay, but I'm really able to do this work. I'm doing it rightly. So sometimes I'm in doubt on my ability to be a good Scrum Master. But no one ever told me something like that. So I don't know how to deal with that kind of situation. Probably, trying to thinking about it on the spot, I would say, okay, next retrospective you'll be the facilitator, or you'll try. I tried to be a developer, and now you can try to be on the other side. It would be interesting because it's an experience. So probably that I would use that kind of approach. Okay, it's easy. Try it. Why not? Maybe you are better than me. I'm not perfect, and I have a lot to learn. So it can happen that maybe you are even better than me. So maybe I learned something from you, or maybe you learn something about me and my job. That's it. If it's going to happen to me, I'll let you know.
Nice. It's a good one. I think definitely saying, hey, seems very easy. Go ahead and do that, right?
Exactly.
Show me what you got.
Experience, knowledge, very based on empiricism. Knowledge comes from experience, so try it.
Nice. A good one. Definitely a good advice to whoever is, might be finding themselves in a similar situation.
Yeah, we say that probably it's common even US, Canada. It's like walking in the shoes of someone else. It's usually not easy because sometimes, but I think that is common thing. Maybe we had a bad day and you are around, you see a person that is doing an easy work, and you say, wow, no problem, no difficulties, your days are smooth and so on. Okay, but you never know for real what's behind that work, that job, which kind of problem can have that person, and we have to be very careful to say, oh, but your job is so easy, I can do that. Yeah, try.
Yeah, interesting. It reminds me of my experience before becoming a Scrum Master. I was a content manager, and I think I talked about it a bit in some of my videos or emails. And content management, as in like writing content, also is seen as something like easy to do. Well, everybody can do it. Now everybody thinks that AI can do it too. Right? So it's like super easy. Yeah. Even the machine can do it. And I had exactly similar experiences where I was working with UX designers who thought that, well, writing content, it's easy. Just, I can do it. Until the moment where we went to do some user studies and we were trying out like a form and people were filling this form incorrectly. Every time we had like 5 people come in and all of them are filling in the form incorrectly. And we were like, okay, what's going on? Why don't they do that? I'm like, wait a minute. I'm going to change something in the text, in the explanation. And I changed one line. And immediately we could see the change and how people were able to immediately fill in the form correctly. And I think that showed in this particular situation that UX designers who I was working with were like, oh, well, actually, yes, content management is a thing. It is a real thing.
Yes, it's exactly that. There is a little fun story that says that a person called a professional for repairing its machine. And this professional came and adjusted a couple of screws and asked him $1,000. And he said, oh wow, $1,000 for 5 minutes and adjusting a couple of screws. Okay, so the professional changed the invoices and said $1 for setting the screws, $999 for knowing which screws to adjust and how to adjust them. It's an interesting story.
Nice, yeah.
Because it's that, and it's exactly what's behind what we were saying, that no job is easy and not any job have only positive things and luckily not bad aspects only. But no job is easy, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, we just don't know what's in there, right, until you actually do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Great. Well, I mean, that was really insightful. A lot of great ideas, I think, and a lot of great advice here.
Thanks.
I will be going towards the end of this discussion, but I do have still a question for you.
Yeah.
For all of the people who are listening to us right now, what would be maybe one advice that you would give them, something that you learned on your way of how they can, become better, feel less stressed, maybe have a bit more confidence in themselves? What would you tell?
Related to Scrum and Agility, I feel that most important thing is to learn about it when we start to practice. In my experience, as I said, we started with a team that was told, you do Agile, and no one knew near to anything about that. And in fact, there was a lot of confusion, misunderstanding, and so on. And instead, if we had just a bit of, some courses, some way to learn about it, it would have been easier. So study about it, learn about it. We'll be in an agile team and you didn't know about agility and Scrum, okay. Ask the Scrum Master if he is a skilled one, learn, read some book, ask question, as we said before, and that I think we should decrease the stress and the tension about things. Then we cannot be perfect, so don't want to be perfect. We do good things, right things, and wrong things and bad things. It happens, okay? Okay, I'm sorry, I did it wrong. And put it together. Be transparent as much as possible, because if I come to the office and it's a very bad day for some personal reason, okay, maybe I can just say, today is a very bad day, be gentle on me. Okay, that could be enough. Maybe you want to share more or no, it's up to you, but be transparent. If something doesn't feel good with another team member or with other teams, let's try to speak about it. So again, transparency. And then decision can be taken. Even, okay, I cannot work in this team, why not? But that will be decreasing again the stress, because you know that you will be somewhere else. It's not a bad thing. So that's it. Let's have a base on which you can build your house. You cannot start to build a house from the roof. And so let's start from the foundations. And be transparent, be yourself and be transparent, be easy. Don't pretend to be perfect every time, and even once probably. That's it.
Awesome. That is a really great advice, and
Thanks.
I really appreciate it, Alessandro. That was really great talking to you today, and thank you so much for sharing your advice, tips, and your journey with us. I'm really happy that you were able to kind of come in and really talk to the audience and tell them a bit more about how to be a good Scrum Master.
Thank you, Daria. It has been a pleasure to be here with you and your audience. Thank you for the chance to be here.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. If you enjoyed this conversation and want to hear more stories like this, make sure to subscribe to the podcast on all of the different platforms. We'll be posting the video version on YouTube and the audio on other podcast platforms. All of the links can be found below the video, or you can also go to scrummastered.com/podcast. You can also find the transcript and the show notes on my blog. And I'll see you in the next episode. Cheers and Scrum on!